All right, REE Mechanical. We are here today to learn about service call procedures. I'm just going to get kind of right into it. So procedures when you're on a service call. Everybody needs a procedure when you're starting. You need to know, what the plan is, what steps to take, right? Especially when you first start getting into this. For a lot of you younger guys or less experienced, it's not something that you're just gonna, walk right into and figure out. You need at least some sort of guidelines, and then you can figure out kind of what works for you. So what we like to do is kind of give you guys procedures on exactly what we want to see, and then you guys got to fill in the blanks a little bit, with your personality and basically your own minds. But calling ahead, that's important. Looking at the outstanding service checklist, that's a big part of it, right? You want to call ahead. You want to let that manager know you're on the way, and where you're not surprising them. That way, if they're not going to be there, or there's somebody else you need to talk to, you can ask by their first name instead of just asking for the manager. As soon as you get there, you want to check in with the manager, as you like to wait up front and just tell them that, I'm with REE Mechanical. I already spoke to them on the phone. Just want to see if I can check in with Phil or whoever you spoke to. And then obviously introduce yourself when you get there. Tell them you need to get up on the roof. And then while you're walking to the roof with them, you can ask them our standard 3 questions, right? How's everything been operating since our last visit? Are there any hot or cold spots in the store I need to be worried about? Any odors I need to be worried about? And then obviously proceed to the roof. So this is our troubleshooting form. This is how it should look when you guys fill it out. We'll just go right down here from the top. Is it calling for heating or cooling? What does that mean? That means, is there a call? Is there 24 volts present at Y1 or Y2? And, did you check it? Y1 to common, Y2 to common, W1 to common, W2 to common. What are you there for? No heat call, no cooling call. What are you there for? Is the indoor fan operating? Yes or no? Is the outdoor fan or fans operating? Yes or no? Are the fuses good? So that means, did you check continuity from the top of the fuse to the bottom of the fuse? Do you have 24 volts at transformer? Check right at your transformer. Is the condenser coil clean? Is the evaporator coil clean? How do your air filters look? Performed your blower inspection, which means that you shut the unit down and you looked at your blower wheel, you looked at your belt, you looked at your pulleys, you checked the tension of your belt. All of these things need to be done prior to you calling someone and talking to them, and asking for some help. Condenser fan motor amps, what's your rated, what's your actual? Your blower motor amps, what's your rated, what's your actual? Superheat required and actual, suction line temp, or your suction line pressure and your suction line temp, your discharge line pressure, discharge line temp, same thing with the liquid line. And finally your split, which is your supply and return. You'll get on the phone and guys will ask you, hey, what's your split? That's what they're talking about. What is the difference between your supply temperature and your return temperature? And finally, what is your ambient temperature and what is the space temperature inside the store? Everybody is given a laminated outstanding form on orientation day. The reason it's laminated is because then you can use dry erase pens and fill this out. Easiest way I've seen is to fill it out, literally take a picture of it, and then send it to your lead technician, and then give them a call and ask them if they can kind of help you. Most of the time, the answers are inside of what you've already filled out. They're going to be able to help you out with everything. They're still going to ask you, where are you? What are you working on? What does it serve? How far into the call are you? Where are you at in TE wise, before they actually start getting into some of these numbers. So remember that there are going to be a few more questions coming regarding just kind of your environment in the call. So when you go up to a unit and let's say it's iced up, what's your procedures? You got a different procedure for every symptom, right? So you open up the filter panel and you just see a block of ice in between the filters, or God forbid, coming through the filters. First thing you want to do is shut the unit down. You want to inspect your blower. You want to inspect your air filters, your evaporator coil, your refrigeration charge, your return registers, and your ducting. Thawing the equipment kind of depends on what it is, right? If it's hot out, you can let the blower operate to kind of breathe some of that warm air in. Kind of pull some of that warm air in. If it's a gas pack, obviously you can run it in. You can run it in heat. That's not really going to help you if the heat exchanger is behind the coil. But I always like pulling the return or the supply panel open and letting some of that warm air just kind of go across that coil and blow it out onto the roof, and let that thing thaw out. But inspecting everything, don't give anybody a call. Don't call and ask for help with trying to diagnose the equipment if you have not thawed out the equipment. We cannot help in any sort of way if the equipment isn't 100% thawed out, because none of your numbers matter. Your amperage doesn't matter, your temperatures, your pressures, none of that matters at all unless every piece of ice is off that piece of equipment. Everything here is just what you're going to inspect while you're thawing it down, or right after it's already thawed out. So your unit's not operating, right? First things first, kind of attach your gauges. Follow your electrical procedure, inspect your economizer, and diagnose your refrigeration circuit. I always say that all the time. Trains can be a little bit difficult to work on, especially when you're first starting out and getting your feet wet. Bring your gauges to the roof every service call you go on. I've known a lot of technicians that leave their gauges inside of the truck and then end up having to make a whole nother trip. Those things don't weigh very much, especially the new ones that you guys have. Throw them in your bag, throw them over your shoulder, whatever you got to do. Bring your gauges up. Save yourself a trip to the truck. You guys are going to make 8,000 trips down to your truck in your career. Being able to eliminate multiple trips in a day is huge. Save your body, save your knees, save your shoulders. Just bring those gauges with you. They don't weigh too much. So blank thermostat. Obviously, when you're inside the store, you want to check your main circuit breaker. When you checked in with the store, you want to go in there and check that circuit breaker. If it is popped, you do not just want to go ahead and reset it. It's not a hairdryer at your mom's house. Didn't just pop because everything was overloaded. We don't know why it popped right now. We don't know why it tripped. So what you do in that situation is just go ahead and you can either just leave it tripped or just turn it off completely. You want to go up to the roof. You want to shut your disconnect down and run through your entire electrical procedure. Check everything, all your loads for shorts and grounds. Inspect all the wiring. Inspect your unit. Diagnose your thermostat wiring, your thermostat. Make sure everything is good as far as all that goes. Leave your disconnect shut down up on the roof. Go back downstairs. Reset your breaker. Go back upstairs and then turn your disconnect on. You don't want that piece of equipment turning on while you're not there. It's important to be standing right in front of it, and you're there. You might as well be able to know what happens. A lot of times guys will tell me, well, I started it from the breaker, but I don't know what happened by the time I got up to the roof. It was popped. So you don't know if it happened instantly. You don't know. You just don't know. You want to be able to give as much information as possible. So turn that disconnect off, go downstairs, turn that breaker on, go back upstairs, make sure your gauges are on it, your amp clamps on it, make sure your thermostat wires are pulled off, and you want to jump everything out one by one when anything trips the breaker. It's always good to be safe, stand out of the way when you start things up, things like that. So water leak procedure. So I'm recording this on August 31st, 2020. We have performed more water leak service calls this year than any other summer that I can remember by far. The humidity the last 2 weeks has been absolutely insane. So I'm probably 250 to 300 water leak service calls in the past probably month and a half or so, which is unusually high. We've had unusually high humidity, and when that happens, we get water leaks. Why? Because the units start condensating more, and the lines that are plugged a little bit, they're not able to handle that amount of flow. So sometimes you do get up to it and they're not leaking at that time. That will happen because either you got there in the morning or it's satisfied, and so you just gotta clean those lines out. But first things first, you come up on a water leak. Where's the water coming from? Is it coming from the condensate pan? Is it coming from the drain line? Is it coming from the secondary pan? Determine where the water is coming from, because that's gonna matter how you diagnose and how you repair the situation, right? But You want to inspect all of these things for a water leak, right? Because they all have caused water leaks in the past. The condensate pan, what does it look like? Is there buildup in it? Do you need to clean it? The drain line, where's the termination point? Don't just start blowing things out if you don't know where the termination point is. Bigger stores, usually there's a termination point inside of the slop sink or inside the janitor's closet into a slop sink. However, it's not always. So make sure that you find that termination point prior to blowing anything out. We had a guy a few weeks ago just blow out down into a store. It literally blew a fitting off, and he shot a huge stain up on the wall in a Best Buy about 30 feet high that we had to get a scissor lift so that way we could actually clean. So know where the termination point is. Inspect your P-trap. Unit and your termination point. There could be a P-trap at the termination point. A lot of smaller single unit stores, they hit the P-trap on the employee bathroom sink. You want to look at that. You blow that out, you're blowing shit straight out of a P-trap into somebody's face. If they're standing at the sink. That is the worst thing, absolute worst thing that could happen. So same thing, don't blow that out unless you know where it goes. Inspect your air filters, your evaporator coil, refrigeration charge. You can be condensating extra heavy if you are overcharged. It's always something to remember. That is a symptom of being overcharged. Your blower speed, you could be holding condensation onto your coil or pulling it off depending on your blower speed. Your return registers, are they plugged? Are they clean? Where are they? Have you seen them? And finally, the ductwork. Is it sufficient? Is it collapsed? Have you seen it? Same thing. You want to take a look at a majority of this on every water leak call you get on, just to make sure that you are handling all of the issues and you're not going to have to return. Electrical procedure. So I keep talking about your electrical procedure, right? This is what your electrical procedure is. When I ask you, or if your lead technician asks you, hey, have you gone through your electrical procedures? It means, have you checked for line voltage at your top of your disconnect? Have you checked for line voltage at your bottom of your disconnect / inside the unit? So do we have power coming into the unit? Do we have power coming back to the first set of fuses? Do we have power going to the transformer? Do we have it coming out of our low voltage side of our transformer? Do we have power at our terminal strip? Do we have call for cooling or whatever it is at our, or heating at our terminal strip? And have we checked all of our safeties, trace Y or W through your schematic and physically? When I say physically trace a wire, you need to physically trace a wire, see where it goes, see where it's ending up. Especially when you're new at this, it's harder to read, wiring schematics. So physically tracing wires is actually going to help you diagnose a lot of units. Being able to trace that power, see where you're losing it. But this is the electrical procedure. This is something that you should know. You should get into a rhythm with it. You're going to memorize it. Check the line voltage at the top of the disconnect, the bottom of the disconnect, or the inside of the unit. Low voltage at your transformer, low voltage at your terminal strip, and then check all your safeties. What safeties do you have? You have a high pressure, a low pressure, a wet switch, a freestat. Whatever it is, we need to be checking it and seeing where you're losing that call, either for cooling or heating. And then your blower procedure, same thing. You got to perform your blower procedure. When I say perform your blower procedure, you got to inspect the motor. Turn the unit off. What does it look like, right? If you're doing your blower procedure, the unit is off 100%. Double check that disconnect. Double check your electrical. But inspect the motor. Get in there. Get on top of it. Feel it with your hands. Is it hot? Is it cold? Has it been running? Does it smell? Use your senses. Inspect the motor pulley for glazing and groove and chunks of belt or loose paint or anything like that. Your motor and your blower pulley, you shouldn't be able to, the belt shouldn't get stuck inside of there. Check your belt for signs of drying and cracking and tearing. Your bearings, take your belt off of your motor, spin your blower wheel just by itself. Listen for those bearings. If you can hear the bearings, that's a problem. You shouldn't be able to hear anything. Same thing with your motor. Spin your motor pulley and see if you can hear anything coming out of your bearings on your motor. If you can hear anything, it's probably too late for that motor, and we need to write up that motor. Blower wheel. Inspect your blower wheel. Make sure that all the blades are still there. They're intact. Make sure they're not loose. Make sure they don't have too much buildup on them, because otherwise you're losing CFM. And then inspect your cabinet. Your cabinet should stay clean. If it's not clean, it's our responsibility to make sure that it does get clean. So figure out the way that you're going to clean it. Everything should look like we've given it some attention, and that is definitely something you guys need to remember. Is, you know, if you're doing a procedure and you're inspecting something, take a couple minutes and clean it. Everything's always going to work better if you clean it. But that's it. This is our service call procedures PowerPoint. So appreciate you guys. Feel free to refer back here with any questions you have. If you have any questions on this video itself, just give me a call or shoot me an email or a text, and have a great day. Thanks.